G'day frothers, it's Will here, and this is the Canyon Spectral AL6. Following on from the carbon version that we reviewed last year, the new Spectral AL incorporates many of the same features into an alloy frame that makes it a bit heavier, but a good deal cheaper. To see how it compares on the trail, I've been testing this bike over the past couple of months, and in this video I'll be discussing what I like, what I don't like, and how it stacks up in the competitive trail bike segment. The Spectral is designed to be Canyon's most versatile mountain bike. It sits in between the Strive, which is the enduro race machine, and the Neuron, which is the comfy all-day trail bike. The Spectral splits the difference with a 150mm travel fork and 140mm of rear travel, and it's available either with dual 29-inch wheels or as a mullet. For some perspective, that puts it into a similar space as the giant Trance X, the Specialized Stumpjumper, and the Trek Fuel X. Compared to its carbon sibling, the alloy Spectral strips back some of the features to help lower the cost. There's no internal frame storage, the K.I.S steering stabiliser has been removed, and there are no internal guide tubes for the cables and brake hose. Canyon has also eliminated the geometry and wheel size flip chips. Whereas the carbon frame is capable of swapping between a 27.5 and a 29-inch rear wheel, the alloy frame is instead produced in dedicated 29-inch and mullet versions. The Spectral AL is produced in 5 sizes from extra small through to extra large, and they all get a 64-degree head angle and a 76.5-degree effective seat tube angle. The rear center length comes in at 429mm on the mullet bike, and it grows to 437mm on the 29er. One measurement that stands out is the reach, which is effectively a size bigger than normal. Now last year Canyon sent me a medium-sized Spectral CF9, which ended up being miles too big for my 174cm height. This time round I requested a small, which has a 450mm reach, which fits me really well. With that in mind, I'd encourage potential buyers to take a good look at the geometry chart before making their purchasing decision, as there's a good chance you'll also need to size down. There are 3 models in the Canyon Spectral AL lineup, with prices starting at $3,900 Australian dollars. As with all Canyon mountain bikes, you'll need to factor in the obligatory shipping fees, as these bikes are air freighted directly from Germany to your door. Once you include shipping, our Spectral AL6 test bike comes in at $5,229 Australian dollars. That gets you a Fox 36 Grip 2 fork and a Flodex shock, a Shimano SLX drivetrain and 4-piston brakes, a DT Swiss M1900 wheelset, and Maxxis Minion DHR2 tyres. Confirmed weight for our Canyon Spectral AL6 test bike with 29-inch wheels is 15.08 kilos, and as usual, that's without pedals and with the tyres set up tubeless. Now, I've been riding this bike quite a lot over the past couple of months, which included using it as a test platform for the Shimano XT Di2 review. I've also had time to experiment with suspension setup, play around with volume spaces and even the shock stroke, and if you're interested in that, you'll find a load more info in the full review over at flowmountainbike.com. There's quite a bit more detail in there about sizing and bike setup, and I've included a comparison between this bike and the Specialized Stumpjumper. I'll put a link in the video description down below for those who are keen to check it out. To sum up my experience with the Canyon Spectral AL6, well, for a start, the small frame fits me way better than the medium-sized Spectral CF that we tested last year. The seated position is more comfortable, and it's significantly easier to weight the front wheel through the corners. Indeed, it's a good reminder of just how important it is to get onto the right size. I've also found the Spectral AL to be a more compliant bike. The alloy frame is likely to be a bit softer than its carbon sibling, and the Fox suspension is more sensitive, especially the fork. I haven't been blown away with every Fox 36 that I've ridden over the last few years, which I suspect is due to the variance in manufacturing tolerances. This particular example is superb, however, with very little stiction present. Paired to the Flodex shock, the Spectral delivers plenty of grip front and rear. It's worth noting that compared to the previous generation frame, the suspension design is claimed to be more neutral overall. Anti-squat has been reduced, and it now sits well under 100% at sag. This improves suspension activity under chain tension, resulting in more traction and less bouncing when pedaling across chunky terrain. The Spectral also does well to minimize feedback on rough descents, and the robust parts package means it feels suitably sturdy when picking up speed. It's not as plush as the Stumpjumper or the Trance X, and it's not as planted as a proper enduro bike. However, it still tracks smoothly across a wide range of impacts, and providing you can hold on, it'll handle some pretty rowdy descents without too much fuss. While it might not be as brawny as some bikes in this travel category, often those can feel a bit wooden and uninspiring on flowier trails. Not so with the Spectral, which has managed to retain some of the spunky attitude from the discontinued Spectral 125. This is largely due to the respectable weight and the poppy suspension, which affords good agility when razzing along machine-built single track. It pedals well and carries good speed, and it encourages you to build momentum by pumping the bike through rollers and down the backsides of jumps and tabletops. It loves popping up the front wheel, and the low-slung top tube makes it easy to throw around in the air. As for downsides, well, the aggressive rubber can make the Spectral feel a little sluggish up the climbs and on longer trail rides. Fitting a faster rolling rear tyre like a Dissector, for example, would make a noticeable difference. There is of course bucket loads of traction, but that didn't necessarily translate to me cleaning every technical feature like I expected to. While the suspension doesn't bob a lot under pedalling inputs, I did find the shock would sink into its travel on steeper climbs. This had the effect of slackening out the seat angle and pushing my weight further over the rear wheel, and it also led to me clipping pedals frequently. Initially I found this a bit strange, as the bottom bracket height is on the taller side, measuring at 340mm off the floor. In comparison, my personal Trek Fuel EX is 6mm lower, but pedal strikes aren't a big issue on that bike, despite it having the same length crank arms. Further investigation of the Spectral shock revealed a CS25 compression tune, which is quite light for a bike with a relatively high starting leverage rate. This allows the rear wheel to more easily overcome the shock's compression damping, resulting in a lot of movement early on in the travel and the lower dynamic ride height that I was experiencing. Now you could counter some of this by increasing compression damping, but that isn't externally adjustable on the Performance Series shock. It is possible to remove the black plastic spacer and install a blue low-speed compression dial, which would be a relatively inexpensive upgrade for improving this bike's climbing performance. However, I still think this shock needs more high-speed compression damping to help it absorb rapid-fire hits when descending. Going back to the Spectral CF9 that we tested last year, that bike came with a RockShox Super Deluxe shock with high and low speed compression adjusters. It felt more damped and supportive overall, leading to better management of the travel on hard and fast impacts. With that in mind, I'd be really keen to try the Float X with a firmer compression tune. I'd also be interested to try out this bike with a coil shock, as I think it will work well with the progressive leverage rate. The rest of the parts on our test bike have otherwise performed well. I'm a big fan of the Shimano SLX group set, and the Maxxis tyres offer loads of grip across a wide range of conditions. The DT Swiss wheels have been stiff and sturdy, and the 370 rear hub is the latest version with the ratchet LN free hub mechanism. I did manage to put a ding into the rear rim, but it was easy enough to straighten out. The alloy frame has also been low fuss. There's a good amount of protection, and the cables are easy to manage, especially with the external routing through the back end and the lack of any annoying integration through the headset. And while internal storage is a must-have for some riders, I'm personally fine without it. That's especially the case on an alloy frame where a downtube hatch adds considerable size and weight. I've had no problems fitting the necessary tools and spares using the bottle cage and top tube mounts, even if it might not look quite as neat. And that, folks, brings us to the verdict on the Canyon Spectral AL6. Well, this bike has got a solid frame, good geometry for all-round riding, and an excellent spec. The pricing isn't as sharp as what we've come to expect from Canyon in the past, but you still get a lot for your money, and it is awesome to see a Fox 36 Grip 2 fork on an alloy trail bike. That being said, there is still room for improvement. I think the bottom bracket could be a bit lower, and I suspect taller riders will want a steeper seat angle. I'd also love to see the geometry and wheel size flip chips that are featured on the carbon frame. And while the suspension provides good comfort and grip in most circumstances, I'd be keen to try the Float X with a firmer compression tune, as it currently feels a bit too light for hard and fast riding. Indeed, with a bit of tweaking, I think the Spectral could be an even more potent trail bike. Now, as mentioned before, the full review of this bike is live over at flowmountainbike.com. Just click the link in the video description below if you're keen to check it out. And if you have any questions for me about the Spectral AL6, pop those into the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this video review, and we'll see you in the next one. Dooroo!